In today's video, we're gonna have a look at the two best stocks with the most potential in the solar market. So, starting with the candidates, Canadian Solar, First Solar, Jinko Solar and Enphase. In my opinion, starting with the revenue, we can see that Jinko Solar is the best, and then we have Canadian Solar. Then the other three are kinda, a league in their own, like basically a step down. So we are looking at the cost of goods sold, and again here is the same story. The two largest ones by revenue also quite logically have the highest numbers here. So then look at the price to sales ratio. Now this is very interesting. As you can see, all of them were elevated at some point, but a few of them were way too overvalued, like Enphase of course, and the other, like I think this is the Israeli company, and then we have the First Solar company. So in my opinion, this is a bad sign, like just way too overvalued. And you can also see that it's been going down Enphase, but still way above Canadian Solar and JKS, Jinko Solar. So these kind of low numbers for Canadian and Jinko gives you an indication that there might be some business case, in my opinion. So gross profit, we can see that same story again, Jinko number 1, and then we have Canadian Solar number 2, and then we have the others. Now, on a positive note for Enphase is actually that you look at the gross profit here. So they have 1.1 billion in gross profit. So if we go back to the revenue side, look at this number here. So they have 2.6 billion in revenue and 1.1 or 1.2 in gross profit. Whereas, for example, Canadian Solar is a 7.5 billion company in terms of revenue. And then when we go to the gross profit, we can see that 1.2. So I don't know, like 3 times the amount of sales as Enphase, but still much lower gross profit per unit sold in a sense. So that might explain why we have seen this higher price to sales ratio for Enphase. So the market's values usually companies that have higher gross margin, which makes sense. But still, I mean, there's one thing to have a higher valuation based on higher gross margin, but there's another thing to have like this kind of evaluation. Like look at the difference between JKS, Canadian Solar and Enphase. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, despite the relatively high margin, it just doesn't make sense. So and then just quickly price to books, and we can see that Jinko Solar and Canadian Solar are still the two leading companies, in my opinion, in this area. So in terms of shipment of the solar panel modules, we can see that in 2022 there was a record amount of shipment, and 90% of those were originated from China, which saw a 60% increase compared to 2021. And if you look at the leading table, we have the usual suspects, and also for our case, the reason I'm focusing on Jinko and Canadian is actually that you can buy them on the Nasdaq stock market. So looking at these, you can see that Jinko is basically shared number 1 in terms of gigawatts, and Canadian is still very big. And then looking into the first quarter of 2023, we can see that Jinko Solar shipped 13 gigawatts and Canadian roughly 6. So these are the expected numbers for end of year, 30 to 35 and 60 to 70. So again, these two companies will be still one of the biggest on the market by the end of this year if they manage to succeed in their predicted amount of shipment. So let me see if I can show you this one as well. So this is one other company in the market, and we can see that according to the first quarter report in 2023 released by the company, they achieved this amount of billion yuan in revenue. So it was down actually on a revenue basis around 1% compared to last year. But look at this other number here. So the net profit increased almost by 210%. So revenue is actually down 1%, but the net profit is up more than 200%. Where is that coming from? Where I believe the answer is here. The polysilicon price and the raw material price in general and shipment price, logistics has been going down since last year, especially Q1 and Q2 last year. So I believe this is why we've seen this kind of articles. And we can actually, I mean, in the article they actually say that the main reason for the significant increase resulted from the decrease in raw material prices and continuous improvement of companies' production cost reduction. So I believe we can see the same kind of story for our main candidates, Canadian Solar and Jinko Solar. And the reason that I say I believe in these two the most is simply because the lower price to sales ratio and the fact that they have quite a big revenue increase, both of them. I mean, sure, Enphase has better margin, but still, I'm not really measuring companies that are in the growth phase, especially like look at their revenue growth, like increasing very fast. I understand that gross margin is not the most important part of the business story in this stage. Maybe in 3 to 4 or 5 years, that's where we should start to see really good development in the gross profit side of things for both Canadian Solar and Jinko. But at the moment, I don't mind if they are having a bit less gross profit, and they can invest that money into just increasing their revenue. And increasing their revenue means basically to increase the amount of gigawatts shipped year on year for the coming 4, 5, 6 years. So looking just into general market information, we can see that this is the journey of the material from a polysilicon raw material to ingots, and then you go from the ingot to the wafer, and then some of the companies manufacture their own cells as well, and then of course the panel and module manufacturing. So this is basically, the more of these steps you have in your own company vertically integrated, there is a higher potential for good margins and also good survivability for the future of the company. And I believe a lot of these companies that we are investing are also heavy on the R&D side, so that's good. And just looking at we said that there was a 60% increase in gigawatts of solar panels sold compared to 2021 to 2022, and 90% was in China. And we can actually see these kind of numbers in the International Energy Agency. So the polysilicon is 79% in China. The wafers are manufactured almost 100%. I mean, you could say 100%. This is basically 97% of manufacturing being done in China. Cell manufacturing not as dominant, but still very dominant. And then as you see, as we go from cells to modules, less dominant of China, but still 75% in one country is huge. And then demand. This one is actually very interesting because we can see that the manufacturing capability and the technical knowledge has shifted from Europe to China. But the interesting part is that the Chinese companies that are dealing with the logistics the best will have really good shot at basically being the market leaders in maybe 5-10 years. And you can see that the demand is not only in China, it's a big demand in Europe, big demand in North America and Oceania. And as you can see, India and the rest of the world is quite significant. So it's actually, like, compared to the manufacturing, the demand is much less in China than the manufacturing. So given all this information, I think that if you look at, for example, Canadian Solar's income statement, and you can see that, as we've seen previously, that the revenue is increasing, but so does the cost of revenue. So the gross profit is not necessarily going up a whole lot, but I expect that 2023 will show much better gross profit than 2022 due to the reasons that we discussed here. Basically, the example of this company that also are operating in the same market, like look at this, same revenue but still up by 200% in net profit. So I believe that if we are considering the market in 2023, we can probably expect that the gross profit will see a significant boost in 2023, and I'm hopeful that that will in turn help to increase the stock price a bit to make it more reasonable, especially in terms of the price to sales ratio, which is, in my opinion, for this kind of growth company, that they have shown year after year that they will increase their amount of output of gigawatts quite confidently. This shouldn't be this lowly valued, in my opinion. But again, this is not investing advice, I'm just sharing my opinion. So thank you for watching the video, and please share and like the video. See you in the next video. Bye.